Hi everyone, and welcome back. Today, I will be ranking Melbourne's tram routes from 58 to 109. This is a part 2 to my previous video, which covers the routes from 1 to 57, so you can watch that first if you want. So now, without further ado, let's jump right into it. Our first route for the video is the 58, which runs from West Coburg in the north to Toorak in the south, running along William Street in the city. This is actually Melbourne's newest tram route, being created after routes 55 and 8 merged together in 2017. The northern part of the route sees it heading through a quieter western part of the suburb of Brunswick, running down Melville Road and Grantham Street before heading off-road and into Royal Park. Royal Park is, at least in my opinion, the nicest section of the whole tram network. Trams run along a dedicated right-of-way through the park, surrounded by trees and vegetation, as well as many walking trails. There are a total of 5 tram stops in the park, serving places such as Melbourne Zoo, the Netball and Hockey Centre, as well as an interchange with trains at Royal Park Station. The tram then turns left to travel past the Parkville Hospital precinct, including some of Melbourne's largest hospitals, all serving their own different purposes. The 58 is the only route to use William Street in the city, being the only route to have a city street all to itself. The 58 runs past the South Bank area, passing the casino before meeting with St Kilda Road at a big interchange at Anzac Station, one of the new Metro Tunnel stations set to open next year. The 58 then continues down the busy Toorak Road, passing yet another major transport interchange at South Yarra Station, before finally terminating at Toorak. The 58 runs E, B, and Z class trams along the route, and from experience, the spacious E class trams are the most common, with Zs being pretty rare. The 58, while not the fastest route, more than makes up for it with its unique nature and comfort on its spacious trams. 9 out of 10. Next up is the 59. The 59 runs from Airport West in the north to Flinders Street in the south, running along Elizabeth Street in the city. Don't be fooled about the name of the suburb Airport West. It's actually quite far from Melbourne Airport and is instead named as such due to its proximity to Essendon Private Airport. The tram travels along the small corridor in between Matthews Avenue and the Tullamarine Freeway. It then turns down Keilor Road, serving the Niddrie area, before turning down Mount Alexander Road and passing 2 complicated roundabout junctions, one of which has a tram stop in the middle of it. After taking a short detour along Fletcher Street and Pascoe Vale Road, the 59 returns to Mount Alexander Road at Moonee Ponds Junction, interchanging with the 82, and then continues southeast to connect with the 57 and 58 at Parkville, heading through the Haymarket roundabout and down Elizabeth Street to the city. The 59 does have a few sections of separated track, but the unseparated sections, especially through Ascot Vale, can be slow. The 59 uses almost exclusively B-class trams, which can get busy but are pretty reasonable for a route like this. I think I'll give the 59 an 8 out of 10. Now we have the 64. The 64 runs from Melbourne University in the north to East Brighton in the south, using Swanston Street in the city. As mentioned in the previous video, the 64 turns left onto Dandenong Road, where it runs along its own right-of-way in a tree-lined median, sharing track with the 5. The 5 turns left to leave the road, but the 64 continues along it for an extra kilometre, running down Hawthorne Road and past Balaclava Junction to East Brighton, which is the southernmost tram terminus in the world, not counting tourist services. The 64 uses an equal mix of B-class and Z-class trams along its route. It generally isn't that busy, so they do the job quite well. I'm going to give the 64 a 6 out of 10. Next to discuss is the 67. Route 67 is another Swanston Street route that runs from Melbourne University in the north to Carnegie in the south. The 67 is the route that spends the longest time traveling down St. Kilda Road, traveling past St. Kilda Junction, and traveling along the road for a total of 10 kilometers, before finally turning left down Glen Huntly Road, past several shopping strips and interchanges with trains at Elstonwick and Glen Huntly stations. Glen Huntly Road ends and the tram turns down the small Truganini Road, which runs on a wide curve for a short section, finally ending just next to Koornung Road. The 67 uses B-Class and occasionally Z-Class trams along the route, and while Glen Huntly Road can get very busy, the large amount of time spent running down St. Kilda Road makes up for the time loss. The 67 gets yet another 6 out of 10. Now we have Route 70. The 70 runs from the Docklands waterfront to Wattle Park in Surrey Hills, running along Flinders Street in the city. The 70 travels through the Docklands area, connecting with ferries at Central Pier as well as the Docklands Stadium. After heading through the city, the 70 turns right to follow its own alignment past Melbourne Park, home to the Australian Open tennis tournament, and the MCG, running right next to the Richmond Rail Corridor. These stops are usually quiet when no events are on, but trams get really busy when an event at either of these venues takes place, usually supplemented by extra 70A trams. After this, the 70 turns onto Swan Street and passes Richmond Station, continuing along the street to Riversdale Junction, where it passes the Melbourne Tram Museum, before continuing straight again, sharing track with the 75. Both routes reach Camberwell Junction, where the 70 heads straight and the 75 turns right. The 70 continues along Riversdale Road and past one of Melbourne's 2 tram squares, where tram tracks cross train tracks, to its terminus at Wattle Park, a large urban wilderness area. The 70 runs mostly A-Class and some B-Class trams along the route. The 70 is generally quite well utilized, so A-Classes aren't really enough here. Still, the 70 is unique enough to receive a 7 out of 10. Our final Swanston Street route is the 72. The 72 starts at Melbourne University, running down St. Kilda Road, before diverging at Commercial Road. The 72 runs through Paran and Malvern, and then turns left onto Burke Road, heading past Gardiner Station, and then through Camberwell Junction, past the 70 and 75. The 72 continues north to terminate in the suburb of Deepdene, right next to the 109 tram. The 72 uses Z and D-Class trams along its lightly used route. It doesn't really have that much to offer, and generally it's quite slow, so it gets a 3 out of 10. Our next route is Melbourne's longest one, at a total of 23 kilometers, running from Central Pier to Vermont South, using Flinders Street in the city. After leaving the city, the 75 runs along Bridge Road, sharing track with the 48, before turning down Power Street and connecting with the 70 at Riversdale Junction. The 75 continues down Riversdale Road, and then turns right at Camberwell Junction, running down Camberwell and Toorak Roads. Toorak Road then becomes Burwood Highway, which despite its name is nothing like a highway and is instead a 6-lane stroad. The 75 passes Deakin University and continues along the road to its terminus at Vermont South, where passengers can change for a bus that will take them the last 5 kilometers to the Knox City Shopping Centre that the tram doesn't quite reach. The 75 uses almost entirely B-Class trams along its route, which are usually okay for the demand. While Burwood Highway is very fast, the rest of the route is mixed traffic, although it's not quite as bad as in some other cases. 7 out of 10. The next route is the 78, running from Richmond in the north to Balaclava in the south. The 78 is one of 2 lines that does not go into the city, and instead runs in a straight line down Church and Chapel Streets. The 78 forms a radial connector route between the many other tram lanes in the southeast, connecting with a total of 13 other tram routes along the way. The 78 uses exclusively A-Class trams, on the route, which can end up surprisingly busy given how popular Chapel Street is. There's also the fact that this entire route is in mixed traffic, and quite slow traffic at that. It's still unique enough to get itself a 4 out of 10. Now we have Route 82. The 82 also doesn't run through the CBD, traveling from Mooney Ponds to Footscray. Unlike the 78, the 82 only provides connections to 2 other tram routes, and it has a unique history coming close to closure many times. I've already covered this route in a previous video, so if you want to learn more, go check that out. The 82, despite this, is still very slow and indirect, so I'll give it a 5 out of 10. Next we have the 86. This is the second longest route after the 75, and it runs from the Bundoora RMIT University campus in the north to the Docklands waterfront in the south, along Burke Street in the city. The 86 passes Melbourne Museum before travelling through the suburb of Fitzroy, past the shops and restaurants along Gertrude and Smith Streets. The tram then runs down Queen's Parade before heading onto High Street, another very busy shopping strip. Finally, the tram makes a slight right onto Plenty Road, which it follows for the rest of the route, heading all the way past the La Trobe University campus to its terminus at Bundoora. While not the longest route, the 86 definitely goes the closest to the edge of the city, ending less than a kilometre from the Plenty Gorge bushlands. The 86 is run entirely by E-Class trams, which is definitely necessary for such a busy line. Despite this, it travels along High and Smith Streets at an absolute crawl, so it doesn't get any higher than a 5 out of 10. Our second to last route is the 96. The 96 runs from East Brunswick in the north to St Kilda in the south, using Burke Street in the city. The northern section of route runs along Nicholson Street, where trams run in a dedicated median, with every single stop having its own at-grade platform. This is the only street outside of the city to be designed like this, and it's really a shame that more routes don't have it. After leaving the city, the 96 heads past the casino and connects with routes 12 and 109, before continuing along the alignment of the former St Kilda railway line, converted to a tram in the 1980s, with all the former stations being converted to tram stops, as well as a few new ones added along the way. This incredibly wide stop spacing makes this 4.5 kilometer section of track the fastest on the network, regularly beating out car traffic. Finally, the tram reaches St Kilda Station, before running down the Esplanade and sharing track with the 16, terminating at the Ackland Street pedestrianised plaza. The 96 uses mostly E-Class trams, but also is the only route to run the unique C2 class, a fleet of 5 trams of similar size to the E's, leased from France. The 96 is the fastest and highest capacity route, granting it the title of this video's only 10 out of 10. Finally, we have Route 109. The 109 runs from Port Melbourne in the west to Box Hill in the east, using Collins Street in the city. The 109 also has its own light rail section, running along the former alignment of the Port Melbourne line that was also converted to tram operations in the 1980s. This section of line also sees trams head past the Montague Street Bridge, famous for the fact that trucks can't seem to stop hitting it. After passing through the city, the 109 travels through Richmond along Victoria Street, sharing track with the 12 up until the Victoria Gardens shopping centre. The 109 then runs through Kew along High Street, sharing track with the 48, before turning onto Cotham Road and following it for the rest of the route. The 109 passes the termini of routes 16 and 72, before terminating just outside the Box Hill Central Shopping Centre. The 109 is a contender for Melbourne's busiest tram route, and even on weekends getting a seat can be incredibly difficult. But by far the biggest issue with the 109 is the trams they use. While the C classes do get busy, they are still an understandable choice for a route like this. Despite this, the 109 also uses A-class trams. the smallest tram in the whole city, for one of its busiest routes. I think you can easily tell why this is bad, and combined with the 109 running through mixed traffic in most busy areas, it leaves a lot to be desired. 2 out of 10. Here are the ranks for all the routes from both of these videos. Thank you everyone for watching this video. Please subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.